I'm here with my good friend and co-worker, Jim Griffin, and we're going to talk a little bit about Dexterra Cleanse, which is a recent launch from SCT. If you were at the Kiowa conference in early October, you would have seen myself and Erica Tyree deliver a short presentation on that. While the fun and beach going of Kiowa may be over, the excitement of Dexterra is kind of just getting started. What can you tell us a little bit about Dexterra Cleanse, Jim?
Well, Dexterra Cleanse, certainly in its position for sulfate-free formulating, but it's a real game changer. Basically, it has the secondary, tertiary surfactants. It does not contain any anionic surfactants. So what you do with Dexterra Cleanse is you pair it with the anionic of your choice, but that formula now has a salt curve. For instance, if you look at it, if you were to formulate with a Castile or Bastille soap, potassium cocoate, something like that, you have a salt curve, and those formulas never have a salt curve. You can formulate with like isothionates and torates. None of those are known to have a salt curve. You always need to have some sort of polymer to thicken. And polymers bring, a lot of times they're difficult to use. They bring negative sensorial stuff to the party. They're tacky. And shampoo applications can be like heavy on the hair. And so again, it's a game changer where where you needed polymers to thicken formulas. Now we're back to good old salt thickening, that's the way we did it for ages until sulfate-free hit, right? When sulfate-free, became a thing, then we saw polymers just flooding into the market because that was the only way you could thicken these formulations, and not anymore. Dexterra, man. And I don't often impress myself. I said it again. But I've impressed myself with Dexterra Cleanse. I really have.
No, that's very interesting. I think you mentioned something interesting that the anionic or other parts of the thing are not present in the Dexterra Cleanse, which basically
Correct.
gives the end user a lot of flexibility.
Absolutely.
In tailoring their own specific formula to the marketplace.
That is correct. Any anionic that they want to use, and some anionics are suited for shampoo applications, others for body washes and things like that. So yeah, absolute flexibility. And if the anionic you choose is a liquid at room temperature, you have a cold process. There's no need to heat. And some of the polymers that are typically used to thicken, sometimes with the Hayes polymer, you got to adjust the pH up, you got to swell it in, and then you got to get the pH down, and all of that is. We've eliminated all of that sort of stuff.
No, that seems like a very key selling point, being able to stay cold process and low energy, especially as people try to reduce their carbon footprint and track things about how much carbon dioxide they're releasing through their processes. I mean, heat is energy, and the typical place that would come from would be either electrical or natural gas, and those all do release CO2. So
yeah.
Well, that's really good news, Jim. Thank you.
We're really not limited in the pH. Formulations can be anywhere from 5 to 8.5, whereas some of these polymers that are used in sulfate-free are limited in pH. Some have to be above 7 to be clear if you want a clear formula. And again, back to the cold process and low energy. Some of these other polymers are powders, and you just got to put a lot of energy into those things to get them into solution, and sometimes it doesn't work right. And not only and the negative attribute with some of those types of polymers, not only do you get you get yield with viscosity, and you don't want yield in your formula because it just it doesn't dilute well. It doesn't. Entrapped air. An issue. Yep. So packaging could be an issue at the end run. It won't lose its air.
Tell us a little bit about the formulas that we're going to be putting out there. You mentioned, several different products that can be added in with it, and so there's going to be associated formulas to help people get their creative juices flowing, so to speak. Can you tell us about what those will look like and what some of those ingredients will be?
Sure. Right now we've got 5 formulas. We've got 2 that are based on SCT ingredients. We've got one formula that has potassium cocoate as the prime, and another formula that has disodium lauryl sulfosuccinate as the prime, anionic. And the interesting thing about the disodium lauryl sulfosuccinate formulation is that one we can achieve viscosities close to 20,000. Now certainly that is in excess of what a body wash would be. That particular formula, I believe, would be tailored towards skin, whether it be body wash or hand soap, something like that. But that we can get that much viscosity. That just ensures that if, say, one of our customers it's got some additives that are viscosity suppressors and things like that, we can still get to the viscosity, the desired viscosity of the formulation. And then we've looked at 3 other anionic surfactants. We've looked at a taurate, we've looked at an isothiazolinones, and we've looked at a glutamate as the prime anionics to sort of do a little bit of a 360. And I think the isothiazolinones formula would be perfect for shampoo. That would be our lead for a shampoo formulation. And that one too, we get viscosity over 20,000, which just means that our end user is not going to have much difficulty achieving their viscosity no matter what type of additives they're using. We're just, we've got the base surfactants marked. So when our customer uses something, we know what our formula and our systems will do, and depending on their additives, if they get a little bit of a different result, we'll know that this particular additive is doing this to the viscosity or this to the clarity, or we can help guide them to get to where they want to go if they needed it.
No, very good. Let me play customer advocate for a second here.
Do it.
And many times it's hard for suppliers to test a lot of different fragrances and whatnot in systems, but obviously that's a very key attribute that really in a lot of ways helps to sell the product to the end consumer. Can you talk a little bit about what that fragrance compatibility looks like based on some of your initial screenings?
Well, the formulations that were supposed to be clear without the fragrance, we add the fragrance and they're still clear. So what that's, and that's really, really good news, because a lot of times the best formulations can be dashed by a fragrance. A brand manager or, at one of the customers, they sort of want to create a family around products, and they start with the fragrance. It's like, okay, this is what we want our stuff to smell like. You're like, oh. And so everybody's just dancing around this fragrance trying to make it work. And sometimes it's a tough task. Yeah. So Dexterra Cleanse, with the anionics that we've worked with, we've had no fragrance incompatibility, no fragrance issues. Certainly, we haven't looked at dozens of fragrances, but the ones that we've looked at, formulations that started clear, the fragrance went in, clear.
Oh, excellent. And
yep.
That no doubt has a lot to do with the maltodextrin laurate, which is a key ingredient in the Dexterra Cleanse.
Correct.
Being a polymeric in nature itself, although not a very traditional polymer in that sense of the word. In fact, in the presentation that we gave earlier this year at Kiowa, I think we even talked about that the food industry had looked at that as a food-grade emulsifier. For whatever reason, they never ended up going down that path. But it's interesting that we see such good compatibility, which I think has a lot to do with the emulsification of that ingredient.
Dexterra Cleanse, everything works in harmony. It's been formulated, it's been optimized, the levels are right where they should be. Again, the formulation has been optimized. We've looked at, as you formulate, as you develop, you have to, change the ratios, look at things. But everything is where it needs to be, and this formulation is optimized, and I completely agree that the fragrance compatibility has a lot to do with the maltodextrin laurate.
Well, great. Well, I really appreciate your time here today, Jim. And
Thank you, Frank.
We're looking forward to bringing this product to market very soon.
Yes, we are.